Garoppolo. Thrown down. Brian Burns gets there. Spider-Man.
What a pass rush by Burns. See how quickly he got to the edge and got
This is Desmond Johnson on the Bleav and Carolina Panthers podcast, here on the Bleav Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network for professionals. Do you Bleav? If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and rate the show on iTunes. We're available in your favorite directories: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Luminary, and TuneIn. You can also find us at Bleav.com and at Bleav Podcast on Twitter. Sorry about that. Instagram tab was up because we're now live on Instagram due to StreamYard doing some, I got all kinds of nonsense going on today. Welcome to the Bleav and Carolina Panthers podcast. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by Sports Illustrated beat writer Schuyler Callihan and the Panthers all-time leading rusher, Jonathan Stewart. It is open mailbag. I'm sure you guys have plenty that you want to talk about after this game from last week. The Jacksonville Jaguars defeat the Carolina Panthers 26-0. It wasn't even that close, to be honest. Probably the worst offensive outing, maybe defense. It might be the worst outing period for the Panthers this entire year. We'll kind of get into what we can with the box score with that. We all know why you're here. The whole Teppergate, David Tepper throwing a drink on a player, on a Jaguars fan, caught from his booth on social media on a video late Sunday afternoon. We'll get into that, ramifications from it, if any. So as of this time at 10:22 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, January 2nd, no word from the NFL. And no word from the Panthers regarding this also. So we'll try to find out why. Why has there been nothing mentioned about this? And we were supposed to do the trial of Scott Fitterer today. And so we'll kind of get into that as well in terms of what he has done in terms of being responsible for this. If he is at all, he may not be that all responsible for it. And maybe some of the things we just saw on Sunday kind of prove that. So we'll get into all that and more. Again, it's open mailbag. Of course, tell them why you're mad. The Panthers are 2-14 right now. So with one game to go against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this Sunday, it's flex. So we don't have a time at the moment. It could be a 1 o'clock start or a 4 o'clock start. Or maybe the NFL just says, you know what? You guys don't even need to play that one. Just don't even, you're good. Just stay at the house. You're good. We'll find all out and more. Before we get into anything else, let's get into our sponsors over at Bet Online. All the major sports are in action this week with the college football playoffs ready to kick off. BetOnline is your #1 destination for all your sports wagering info, including news for pro football, the NBA, upcoming fights, and NHL games this season. Head to the website today to get into the action and see all the updated odds for the week. Remember to use the promo code Bleav, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. And typically we usually start with the box score. But again, the Panthers didn't really have a whole lot to hang their hat on here in this game. We'll just mosey through it real quick, and we'll get you guys' thoughts on what you saw. Travis Etienne scored twice. The Jaguars ended a 4-game skid with a 26-0 shutout of the woeful Panthers. Stu, let's start with you. What was that on Sunday? Is this a team that's just gotten to the end of the year, or was it just a buzzsaw they ran into it? What's his name? Trevor Lawrence didn't even play. So, what happened on Sunday?
Man, when you're 2-14, 2-14, you can only hope for the best. And I think going into that game, coming off last week, feeling kind of hopeful, being able to score points. You go into Jacksonville, but you're playing against a team that actually has something to play for. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's obviously the difference. You have a team that is in playoff contention, and they're not about to lose to the other cat, basically, right? Yeah. No pun intended. Panthers versus Jaguars. So I think, there's a lot of negative. There's been nothing but negatives this year for the Panthers, with hints of positives. But I'm just glad that our boy Bryce Young got out of there unscathed. It's a positive to see how tough he is. And there's really nothing else to say. I really wish I can beat this like a dead horse. I wish we would have ran the ball more. Chuba Hubbard ran 4.5 yards per carry.
11 carries, 45 yards. Yep, Chuba Hubbard.
So why aren't we, just let him tote the bag? But
it was 9-0 at the half. Yeah, it wasn't like they were like running
away.
It
wasn't out of reach and whatnot. Just stay the course of what you know. You're on the road. Running the ball is your best friend when you're on the road, especially this late to the season against a team that is in playoff contention. So they're going to do everything they can to win. I can guarantee you that. So if you're going to put a product on the field, put one that is worth watching and gives the players an opportunity to be in position to execute to the best of their ability.
Schuyler, what did you see on Sunday? Like, what like, look, I told this story on Facebook. I waited till halftime. I needed to run out to Harris Teeter to grab some stuff. And I was like, I'll wait till after the game. But the way the game was going, I was like, I'll be okay. So I left at halftime, went to Harris Teeter, picked up a couple things, grabbed a pizza, came back. Harris Teeter's only 5 minutes from my house. I came back to the house, realized I left my phone in a buggy somewhere or just somewhere, Little Caesars, wherever I left it. So I was freaking out. So I made it all the way back to the house, turned around, went back to the two spots that I was trying to get, stuff from. The pizza place didn't have it. Harris Teeter didn't have it. I come back to the house a second time. As soon as I walk through the door, my wife is on the phone. It's like, hey, Harris Teeter just found your phone. So I have to go back to Harris Teeter a third time, get my phone. I come back into the house. The Carolina Panthers have had 2 first downs in that entire time that I was gone, back and forth, having to deal with all this stuff with my phone. They had 7, I think, total for the game, if I'm not mistaken. What were your thoughts on this, man? Yeah.
They had a stretch of 3 and outs, too. I think it was like 6 3 and outs or so after that first drive where they actually moved the ball. It was like a 15-play drive, and then because of the field goal situation with Eddie Panera, they had to go for it on 4th and 7. But here's kind of what I took away from it is, regardless of the success they had a week ago on Christmas Eve, I think the moment you start to revert back to your old habits, or the second you start doubting yourself and you've had weeks of ineptitude on that side of the ball, you're just going to go back right into your old stuff, and it's hard to dig out of that. And I think with Bryce, it's not really all on him, as we've said all year, but the offensive line was horrendous in this game, man. Like the left side of that line, Ike Ekwonu.
We need to talk. Yeah, we need to talk about Ike.
We got to have a conversation about Ike in that left guard spot. I mean, it's been rotating all year round, but and I think something everyone's forgetting is Brady Christensen not playing this year outside of the first game. Does he make that big of a difference? And that's a big question too, because like for a guy that didn't play all year, you have to go into next offseason upgrading the offensive line. And we talked about this, I think, last week. Who are you upgrading? Because you invested a first-round pick in Ike Ekwonu. You invested a 3-year contract in Bradley Bozeman. Taylor Moton's not going anywhere. And Austin Corbett's on a multi-year deal, but he's been injured. So maybe you try to move off of Corbett. Like, where are these pieces coming? So I almost feel bad for Brady because he didn't have a chance to show himself this year. And now he may just be the automatic guy that they just try to upgrade at left guard. So I don't really know, but I will say this.
Switch him? You don't think they might switch Christian to left tackle, which he played in college, and move Ike inside?
They could. And I wrote about it yesterday about moving Ike inside. I think if there's a guy there that's a proven commodity that you can go and get and you feel good about, and 100% he's going to be an upgrade over Ike, you bring him in. But if there's no clear-cut answer and you have to spend an ungodly amount of money to do it, you just go forward with Ike for 1 more year, and that be his make it or break it year as a left tackle. I think it's ideal.
I think you're selling yourself short if you're not going into this offseason with the mindset, the offensive line, the offensive line, the offensive line.
Everything has
not just finding the players, finding the right system. Find the right system for this offensive line that can protect and do the things necessary to get Bryce Young a fighting chance, because that's what we've seen all throughout this year. The inconsistencies have been at the offensive line. And to, not making excuses when you do have injuries, when you do have coaching changes, when you do have system changes. I mean, some of these guys have been through 3 different systems. Taylor Moton's been through I don't know how many systems he's been through. You know what I'm saying? So, so when you talk about guys being on the same page, which page? Are we on page 1? Are we on page 12? Are we on page 133? Like what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? So it's hard for guys to find rhythm. It's hard for guys to find a gel when you've gone through what this team has gone through. So if you're going into this offseason and your mindset is not where is the best offensive line, what is the best scheme, like how can we put these guys in the best position to be successful, because then you can put anybody back there and it's going to be up to that person that's back there to make the decision. Get rid of the ball on time. We can start critiquing other things, right? Hit the hole. but right now, there's none of that.
So it all starts with the O-line. Yeah,
it starts with the offensive line.
I don't want to hear anything about getting a receiver until the offensive line is fixed. I understand there are some serious issues in that receiver room, but you can't do anything unless he is protected. So that's the first priority. Second of all, I do want to mention, though, because this is going to be an episode full of negatives, let's praise Derek Brown for a second.
Yes.
Look, this man is playing his arse off.
He should be in a Pro Bowl, or not the Pro Bowl. All Pro.
Make Derek Brown go both ways, man. Have him
from the line. Let's see what he does at left tackle. I heard tossing people like ragdoll.
They start tossing people out the club.
I saw something that made me sad. We've got to tell them why you're mad. I don't have a tell them why you're sad, but I saw last night a poll somebody put up on Twitter. Which line is better, the Alabama or which one line would you rather have, the Alabama offensive line or the Carolina offensive line? And I was like, that's not fair. These are pros. Like, come on, man.
These are pro. Listen, I don't care what anybody
I clicked
says.
Panthers and it was like 33%. Like those Alabama lines, 70% of them. I was like, wow.
I don't care who you is. There's no college offensive line out there that's better than a professional offensive line.
I always laugh at that conversation. Like,
and
worst NFL team.
I will say this. We sit here and we're saying, fix the offensive line, fix the offensive line. We don't even know what that looks like. Right. It may be getting more players. It may just be getting the right scheme. It legitimately might be that. Like, hey, look at what you have. Heal up this offseason, and you bring somebody in here that says, hey, we're going to do things this way. This is the Panther way. Offensive line, this is the Panther way. You protect and you make sure that you protect the quarterback and you make way for runners to run. Because I'm going to sit here and say this with Icky. He's had a down year. But I'm not going to go out there and say there's 20 offensive linemen that's better than him. You know what I'm saying? That's out there just sitting on the couch somewhere.
Yeah, like at home or
you
whatever.
Know what I'm saying? So So as far as, finding a replacement and jumping to that conclusion and all those things, I mean, we've seen what he can do. He has the talent. It's somewhere along the way, the communication, the dialogue, the scheme has gotten in the way. And there's the identity of what we're trying to accomplish. It's been missed, and I think that is a lot that needs to be talked about going into this offseason rather than making irrational decisions on players, and having irrational expectations as well.
He just doesn't look like somebody that's sure of himself. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
he looks like second guessing everything.
Right.
He doesn't know
Yeah.
how to handle the twist game, the stunts. Like,
He's getting beat on basic stuff. Like,
yeah, I mean,
basic
and it's not
moves
that
now.
he can't do it. We've seen him do it. It's just
Mhm.
a level of trust, I think, too, with the rotating guys at left guard, and then maybe the trust in the system. Because, like we've said many, many times on here, you go back and watch the first 4 or 5 games of last year when Matt Rule was still here and they went spread offense. He struggled. Now, granted, it was his first few games and he was going up against Myles Garrett's and Kayvon Thibodeau's of the world. It wasn't an easy start. But then when they transferred over or transitioned over to that downhill run-heavy attack, you saw Icky kind of come together. And then
Right.
you go back
Confident.
to this offense, which is similar to what they did in the first 4 weeks last year, and it's been nothing but struggles. I think
Yeah.
it's a very big part of scheme.
Yeah,
The-
it's a huge part of scheme. If you think about it, you hear the rumblings of, the offensive line coach getting upset and whatnot on the sideline. I've seen offensive line coaches like go to bat for their guys. That was a situation where the coach feels like he's a little bit like, hey, look, we're trying our best in this scheme. We're trying to do all that we can. It's not just all on us, even though it's like a double-edged sword, right? In order for the train to move, you got to have the tracks laid down, right? The offensive
Right.
line is exactly that. And so it's hard to say that, you could not to put it all on the offensive line when you're getting blown up in the backfield, because we're not seeing the tracks laid down. And basically, they running on the run. They running on the wrong tracks. It's not built for them. You know what I'm saying? So
That's what I'll give a shout out to Bryce, because at this point of the season, if I was Bryce Young, my immediate reaction whenever I take a snap, whether it's shotgun, under center, wildcat, whatever, I'm immediately looking I'm looking to my left. As soon as I get it, I'm like, y'all good over there? What's going on? What's happening? Like, I need to know, because there's been so many times where he doesn't look that way because he just has his blind trust in Icky, and Icky lets him down. Like, it's always like a one-on-one. One of those sacks on Sunday,
That was scary.
Adam Solo, the one that where the dude got hit in the back. I was like, man, that's it. Like, we went back and forth on, should we sit him? Should we not sit him? Damn it, that's it. They just showed us
both sides.
Yeah, and he just kind of crumbled. But to his credit, he got right back. Well, he went to the tent, went right back in the game, didn't miss a snap. I'm like, Bryce Young crazy. Bryce Young is crazy. Like, he's still going out and live bullets.
Yeah.
He is nuts. So I appreciate the kid for doing that. And yeah, Hunter, I wanted to talk about how tough Bryce was. Bryce has took over 58 sacks this year with a game to go. So I'm curious if they tried him out there Sunday at this point after what happened last week. And
All I know is Baker Mayday. He about to come out here and call for Mayday, boy.
This has gotten out of hand. And then
listen, I just want y'all to know Baker Mayfield asked to be let go last year. Like, hey, let me out of here.
Yeah, let me leave.
And he is in a situation right now, like, where he's about to go to the playoffs.
Totally different player.
Totally
different player from what we saw last year.
And credit to him for, betting on himself, really. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
you got a shot to go to the playoffs and win the division. Win the division, fellas. You can't let that happen as a Panther. You cannot let that happen as a Panther. If you go into this game Sunday with nothing to play for, you got to find it within yourself to ruin the Tampa Bay Buccaneers day and season. So
you know how it feels. You
yourself to not let it be on your watch.
I'm gonna pull up real quick the standings. For those who don't know, and that's it. You know what? Just looking at this.
I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
We're going to the last week of the season. Tampa and New Orleans are tied at the top of the division at 8-8. Atlanta's 7-9, and we're the reason why they're 7-9. This division is it was the most winnable division in all of football. Maybe the AFC South. They're a bunch
And
of
everyone
nuts.
said that in the very beginning of the season, right? Like it's a very
winnable division. But I mean, not to this. I mean, I didn't expect it to be like I thought one team would pull away from everybody, but it's just the vision of just mediocrity. Like everybody's just like right here, but we're like right here. So like it's like that. I think that's why I'm mad.
You want me to give you the brutal, honest truth right now? The Panthers, as bad as it seems right now, they're still at least 3 years away. I hate to say it. But I mean, when you don't have a first round pick, I'm not saying one player.
I just want y'all to know when Schuyler starts talking like this, y'all better listen.
Yeah, because his track record is impeccable. Like usually, and it's usually months ahead.
Pessimist vibes.
It's months ahead of whatever's going to happen. Listen to him because whatever he's about to say is going to happen probably the next 3 or 4 months. We're going to be like, where did we hear that from? Oh, it was on Bleav in Panthers. Schuyler Callihan said it, and we didn't want to believe him because it was all negative. But we're here. I mean, this is dark times. Like we're here. We're in.
It's the truth. Like they are so far behind the 8 ball in this thing because you don't have a number 1 pick. And again, like I said, one guy's not going to change the course of this thing, but it would definitely help. And when you don't have
especially
that first round pick,
especially
right. And when you have the amount of question marks on the offensive line, you don't have Brian Burns locked up yet. You don't have Frankie Louvu locked up yet. J.C. Horn still cannot stay healthy. I almost said a bad word there, but there are so many question marks with this team. The depth, which I talked about all the way back in last April or May or June, is still an issue. It's going to be an issue for the next 2 years until the new staff comes in and gets their depth built up through the draft. You don't have an absurd amount of draft picks this year. You don't really have a great amount of draft capital the following year. It's going to be a process. And before you really start competing for division titles, you have to be competitive. And right now, the Panthers are still a year away from even being competitive, maybe 2 years away. So it's a 3 year
free agency. Talk about free agency right now, too, right?
Yeah. Matter of fact,
if you're a free agent and you have a place to go, do you want to come to the Carolina Panthers?
Right. What's even appealing about that right now?
Especially after what happened on Sunday at the end of the game. I'm not going to show the video because all of us have seen it enough. If you haven't seen it, go to Bleav in Panthers Twitter account. It's
I'll
there.
reenact it for you.
Yeah. Schuyler reenact for me, it was the cut flip. Like the cut flip at the end of it, like he had just splashed the Steph Curry 35-footer. Like he literally just walked off. And then it's the non-reaction from Scott Fitterer, who we're supposed to have on trial today.
He doesn't even look.
He's
just staring straight down at the fan.
Straight ahead. Like, and to me, you know what that told me that is not the first time he has seen that behavior. Like that is not abnormal.
Scott was focused, man.
That's not it. I didn't see it. I did not see it. I did not see it.
This is not good for me. This is
he didn't even look. You know, normally if something like that happens, you're gonna kind of look at the person that threw it, right? You're gonna, especially the right beside you. You're like, whoa, what's going on? Yeah, what's happening? But there's no audio, so you can't really. You can kind of decipher sort of what's going on. Like it doesn't look like, and I saw a little bit more of that video last night that I didn't see at the beginning and the end of it. I didn't realize the Jaguars fan, and it is a Jaguars fan. I thought it was a Panthers fan, but it was an old Jaguars jersey that he's wearing. He's not even facing the booth. Like he's looking out at the field. Like, and I guess they can overhear him through the window because you can see Scott Fitterer standing there looking out the window and he's nodding at something like he can hear something or somebody's talking to him.
You can see his mouth move too. Scott said something, but it was like in a very calm manner.
Right. Like, and then all of a sudden Tepper just comes out of screen and just, so like clearly he was close enough to hear what was going on, but he wasn't on. And another thing too, the fact that whoever in that other booth decided to tape what was going on tells me that had been going on for a little bit before they decided to tape. Like you don't just pull out a phone
or they was provoking the situation.
Yeah, something was going on where somebody was like, "Let me pull out his phone, whatever's going."
Make it worse.
So because of that, now I was defending it. Like people were like, "Why would anybody come and coach the Carolina Panthers right now?" I'm like, "Why wouldn't they? Like you got guaranteed money sitting here. Even if you only work for a year, you can get paid for 4 years. Like that's the best job in sports. Like come on in here, Charlotte, and we'll treat you right." Now I'm like. Did he just mess this up? Like, did he just mess this up?
A week before the search starts.
A week before. So now it's like, I know Ben Johnson was the hot name everybody was talking about we wanted to go after or whatever. I've been on record saying, look, I was rooting for Michigan last night. I'm hoping Harbaugh finishes off on Monday. He can walk off into the sunset, leave Michigan, come to the NFL, and come to Charlotte. But I'm pretty sure him, Ben Johnson, everybody else have seen that now, and they're thinking in their head,
You're
do
not
I want to
getting
come here? Do I want to go there and deal with that?
There's
Plus,
there's too much drama. You're going to have to outbid everybody that's going to have a head coach opening. And when Black
Chargers,
Monday comes, it's going to be like the Grim Reaper knocking on about 8 or 9, 10 doors.
And there was only like 6 openings last year, with us being one of them.
Yeah.
There was like 6. This year's gonna be 8 or 9, and we had a head start. You know, like we let Frank go early to have a head start in this, and now it's almost like that head start
won't even matter.
Won't even matter. And
I
will say, why is Fitterer still here? Why is he still here?
I will say this though, like I'm not really sure what the Dan Snyder situation was in total. Like, what it was like in that organization.
Yeah. That's a deep hole.
But you know, they were able to hire some people. You know what I'm saying? And now, granted, the organization sucked because of him, but like, and just all the inside stories that came out about, you know, what transpired with him and understanding of the toxicity of that whole ordeal. But you know, there's got to be something to be said about the opportunity that the Carolina Panthers present, right? You can come in here and actually, you know, have a game plan, right? Have, you know, if you're a coach that's coming in here, you're going to be a coach that is confident and knows what the hell he's doing, basically. You have to be one of those coaches. You can't be someone that, you know, is unsure,
not like naive, timid, don't give a face to people. You need somebody.
But all the good coaches are good coaches because they're not naive. They're very sure. They know what they want. They know and trust their system, and they know how to hire people. They know how to staff. They know, you know, the ins and outs of people and how to delegate people and to, you know, put confidence into people. So you can say all day, like, who's going to want to come here to coach? I'm talking about these players. Who's going to come here and play?
We haven't.
And so, because if you look at the track record for the last, you know, 6 years, 5 years, you know, if I'm a player, does this team have an opportunity to legitimately go to the playoffs next year? If I'm a vet, I'm not trying to go to a team that doesn't have a shot at playoff contention.
That's going to on that coach. Because look at the players that came this year. They came because of Frank Wright, right? So those vets came because they believed in his vision, and you saw the Panthers just break Frank Wright down, like to the point where, I mean, all of his hair was gray. And
whoever the new coach is has to bring a culture, an identity, and they have to have that alpha presence. If they don't have any of those three.
There's only 1 or 2 out there, Harbaugh, right? Like how many actually fit that description? Because as much as I like the idea of Ben Johnson, you kind of were doing it. It was like a package deal. People were like, let's get Ben Johnson, but keep Evero as the defensive coordinator and go from there. And I'm like, you still kind of have the same problem. Like if you do that, it's not one singular voice.
The second he steps in that building, he demands attention and respect.
And that's going to,
it's not going to work.
That's going to require restraint on Tepper's part, which at this point, I don't know if that exists in terms of him being able to stay out of it. And I've always been one of the ones people are like, oh, he's tinkering too much, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's his team. He can do whatever he wants. If he wants to be out there on the practice field watching every day, fine. If he wants to talk to the individual coaches and be involved in the process, fine. Some owners don't do that at all. Some owners just kind of put people in between themselves and the football operations, and they don't really touch any of it until they're able to stand on stage with a trophy. And that's fine too. So I've never been one to be like, to tell a man that owns a business, you're doing too much with your business. Like,
it shows he cares.
It shows he cares. Clearly cares. He wants to win.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a question. But I feel like you were talking earlier about the limited number of picks we're going to have. I feel like that's going to be the result of what happened Sunday. I think they're going to take draft picks. Like, they're going to end up taking draft picks from us from what happened. Because how else can you hurt him? You can't fine him. I mean, you can't find them an outlandish amount. The owners will.
They could
fight back,
maybe, but I don't really know what all that would look like. I mean, these kinds of things don't really pop up all that often.
I think I saw the Titans owner it was Bud Walton or whoever it was. He did like a double middle finger salute to a fan a couple years back, and I think they took a draft pick away and fined him $250,000 or something like that. Now that's just giving the middle finger to somebody. That's not assault. You know what I mean? Like that's not something where the police have to really get involved. So I'm not really sure. And again, it's 10:51 a.m. I haven't checked Twitter while we've been on. I haven't seen anything from the NFL or the Panthers team, the organization addressing this. And as we get further and further away from Sunday, it's making me feel like they're not going to address it and they're just going to get to the end of the season and just go from there. But that can't be. You can't do that. Like you can't set that precedent of just not doing anything where the owners can do whatever they want. Tepper seems to not fully grasp the idea that, and I speak of this being the fan on this panel, fans take ownership in their teams. Like fans feel like they are a part of the team. They buy tickets, they buy merchandise, they go to the games, they defend them in public. Like the fans feel like they're part owners too. And you can't look at it like I'm the owner, you're the fan, I'm the king, you're the peasant. Like whatever I do is cool. You guys are in your basements talking junk about the Panthers all week. Like you can't do it that way. Like you're alienating the fan base and you're not even trying to, but you're doing it. And I don't know. This might be the first week ever. I've been a Panther fan since day one, since 95. And this is probably the first week where I don't want to wear a Panthers hoodie this week. Like I don't feel like, you know what I mean? Like I don't feel like representing them this week. I don't feel like they deserve me representing them from what happened on the field and what happened in the stands with the owner. You're a reflection of the fan base, like when you do stuff like that. And that's why Jerry Richardson was so quick to be kicked out of here, because you're starting to affect the shield. And that's what I'm wondering with the NFL. Do they feel like what he did Sunday affects the shield? Because if they feel that way, that's a different type of reaction from the rest of the owners than if they feel like it's just a one-off and nothing's going to come of this. Because I didn't even see a whole lot of it on national media on Monday. Granted, it was New Year's Day. College football playoffs are going on. You had all these sport things going on. I didn't see a whole lot. I saw Skip Bayless talk about it a little bit on Undisputed. The first take crew's off, so I haven't seen them talk about it at all. Maybe they talked about it today. I just haven't seen it. But it all adds up to a situation where we went back to the beginning of the show about the offensive line. It's impossible for us to know what scheme for the offensive line will be because we don't know who the coach is going to be. We don't know what their philosophy is going to be. Are they going to be a defensive-minded guy, offensive-minded guy? Are we running downhill? Are we spread? What are we doing? So we don't know. And because of that, you can't attract free agents. So it's all running around in a circle, and I don't know how you get out of it. I think the only people that are happy with what's going on here are Chicago Bears fans, because they told us in the preseason that we sucked. And we were nah, we're good, bro. We're going to win the division. They're going to end up with DJ Moore on one side, Marvin Harrison Jr. on the other side, Justin Fields as quarterback. They got two starters out of that trade with the other picks that they got from us that are playing right now on their defense, if I'm not mistaken. And they're going to be in a position to win their division next year because of us. We did it. Like almost all of it. It's us. We did it. So this is new territory, man. Like I can't remember feeling like this as a Panther fan.
What makes it worse is like I said with the 3-year thing. What have we seen in the last 4 or 5 years, or even really this year, that makes you say, you know what? They're only a few things away. This thing is so hard.
I haven't felt like that since Matt Rule. When Matt Rule was here, I was always like, we're a couple things away, but we have pieces, and he inherited pieces. He inherited DJ Moore. He inherited
the biggest piece you still don't have a long-term deal with.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like if something happens to where these two can't agree to terms and Burns walks away scotch-free, man,
oh my gosh! Like when you could have got 2 firsts and a third for him,
we gonna see him go somewhere and ball out. We're gonna be mad.
When that meme of the kid just punching the air.
If you're Burns, like we just talked about, players want to play here. Why would you want to play here if you're Brian Burns?
He did say, well, this was before Sunday. He did say that he hates change and that kind of stuff. So he kind of indicated he wouldn't mind staying here, but losing's got to wear on you after a while. This will be a straight losing season.
Burns leaves. You got to think about some of the other guys on that side of the ball, like Frankie Louvu. If Burns isn't here, does Frankie want to be here? Does Dante want to be here long term? Does Shaq want to be here long term? Does
Derek Brown?
Derek Brown want to be here long term?
Man,
I mean, what's going to happen is things are just going to get expensive, right? Like
Yeah.
guys will demand, certain pay and whatnot, and their abilities and efforts on the field. But man, it's a tough deal all the way around, and they got to figure it out this offseason. They got to figure out who they're going to coach, who's going to be the coach. And like you guys said, your key guys, you got to figure out that nucleus. If you don't have that nucleus going into the offseason, it's going to be hard to get guys here. And then, with Tep, man, he's a human. Let's not forget.
Yeah. Everybody's emotional. It's been a long year.
He's a human being. And I'm pretty sure right now he's thinking to himself, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Just like a lot of guys have done in professional sports. We've seen it throughout the course of history where, right now we're looking at, an owner and saying to ourselves, oh, he shouldn't have the audacity. Well, there's a lot of times where players shouldn't have the audacity. There's a lot of times where fans definitely don't have the audacity.
Yo, it's 2024. Everybody's got a camera.
Yeah,
everybody's got a camera.
I mean, everybody's got a camera now, so ain't no telling what we missed over time.
Oh my gosh!
But like
Jerry Jones back in like
when
91.
When it comes to emotions, like we're not robots, and this is a reminder at the end of the day that everyone's human. It doesn't give you the right to act out and to carry on in the public in certain matters, because to whom much is given, much is required, right? So I think we're all anyone that's a grown up understands that, and I think you should be able to understand too that these players, coaches, owners invested day in and day out, trying to protect the shield, trying to put on, a show, entertainment for fans, and understanding the expectations and the demands on, certain outcomes. And for the Panthers this year, the outcomes haven't been great. But I think this is a good reminder going into the new year, 2024. We're going to have to find some grace, because if not, it's going to be a long road.
Man, we already on that long road, because this has been ongoing for 6 years. Like some people, I think they think we parachuted into mediocrity. We've been here, and we've been denying it for a while, and now I'm like,
yeah. And apparently to Schuyler, we got 3 more years, so it's gonna be 9.
And I believe him. I completely believe him. I will say this though, I don't think David Tepper regrets what he did because of that cup flip. That cup flip at the end, that was the chef's kiss on on him throwing it. That was like, yeah, I did it. Yeah, it was me. I threw it, and then he gets out of screen. So I'm like, what is happening to my team? I've never seen this happen before in any sport. I couldn't think of anything else close to this in terms of an owner-fan interaction. And it's crazy because I was seeing clips before that at the beginning of the game where Tepper's on the field, and there's a fan.
Autograph.
Yeah, there's a fan in the crowd, like 2 and
which he does about every game, I think.
Yeah,
which he does about every game.
Went over, talked to him, signed an autograph, did the owner thing. And I'm like, yeah, you're getting it. Like, this dude is stuck out the whole season. He knows it's been a bad season. You know it's been a bad season. And you're going over to acknowledge that this is in Jacksonville. And like, he went over, talked to him, signed his jersey and everything. 3.5 hours later, no one's going to remember that. Like, all that's, don't even worry about that. That's not even the story. So, and
that's the sad reality, is because ain't nobody going to remember the good. They're going to remember that bad.
So I will, Willie Smith, super fan for Bleav in Panthers, says, in my mind, Harbaugh, if you have a staff member stealing signs as the head coach, he is responsible. And to me, it reflects on his character, i.e. Sean Payton and Bountygate. Hard no on Harbaugh. Stealing signs is a little bit different than paying out money to hurt players. So like
everybody pretty much does it.
We've addressed it here. Pretty much everybody does it, Willie. We're not saying it's okay, but everybody does it. So it's not the same level of cheating as. And I don't even think
if you're not cheating, you're not trying.
But look, Bountygate was a whole different thing. Like, they're like, yo, $10,000 you put Brett Favre on the bench. Yeah, like that's a whole other area. Too bad Tepper has bad history with Tomlin, because Mike would be a perfect fit here. I was thinking about that too. If the Steelers
If the Steelers let Tomlin go, man, it's gonna be a sad day.
He gonna get hired before he leaves the parking lot. Like someone go, hey, we just heard the terrible news. Why don't you come interview for? And that's what we need.
I would overpay through the roof for Tomlin, boy.
Man, you remember back in the good old days when like we would be complaining about going 7-9 with Ron Rivera and like, what is this? Oh, we're 8-8. The good old days when we were competitive and you know what I mean, had a shot like every year. If Tomlin comes, we'd get a little of that. Now, I have Steeler friends, and they're upset with him. Like they're like, I've had enough of Mike Tomlin. I'm like, boy, y'all don't even know how good you got it.
Well, I mean, basically because their offensive woes have suffered through the identity of the team, right? The identity of the team is defense oriented, which is the reason why everyone's so high on offensive minded coaches, because that's how you win games these days, by scoring points.
Yeah.
But you know, who's the dark horse right now
for the coach? For our coach?
No, the dark horse in this whole NFL season.
Playoffs,
Super Bowl.
Buffalo's looking pretty good right now at the moment. It's funny. I know they won the other day, but Kansas City, something's wrong with Kansas City. Like
they
ain't.
I ain't gonna write them off.
Me either. I learned my lesson. Like
a little bit to me.
Now they're gonna have to go on the road. I didn't realize they haven't won any. They haven't played any road playoff games since Pat Mahomes became the starter. They've all been at Arrowhead.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna see.
Yeah, we're gonna find out. In the NFC, I don't know if there is any surprises in the NFC. The Eagles have kind of fallen back to earth a little bit. I think the 49ers are the best. I wouldn't say Dallas is a dark horse. They can't win on the road. I don't know. The NFC seems kind of like weak sauce to me. Like I'm trying to figure out.
I'm gonna give you it here right now. You ready?
Yeah.
The Los Angeles Rams.
Oh, I forgot about them. Yeah, they're playing pretty well.
Man, listen, that running back.
Oh, Eckler. Yeah.
No, the Rams,
they got rid of
the Chargers. The Los Angeles Rams. What's his name? What's his Kyron Williams?
Oh, I'll go look it up. But yeah.
And then they got
Puka Nacua, the wide receiver.
Puka Nacua, the receiver, and obviously you got Coop.
Yeah.
But right now they're playing on cylinders, boy, that I don't really see how they don't win playoff games.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about peaking, right? It's all about when are you going to peak? And I don't feel like they've really peaked yet.
And they're not scared of the 49ers. That's a division rival. Like,
yeah.
We don't care.
I mean, right now you got Purdy hurt, you know, with his shoulder. Ain't no really telling kind of how that's going to fan out. But man, like the Rams, and I'm gonna give you another one. And the Cleveland Browns.
Yo, their defense.
Joe Flacco.
Yeah, what is Flacco? What is he, 38? Like he just got
Joe
off the couch and started balling.
Yeah, Joe Flacco just came out of nowhere. He just said like, "Oh yeah, I'll put on a helmet. I guess I'll come play quarterback. I guess I'll throw. I know the offense a little bit. Oh yeah, I'll throw a couple touchdowns a game. That's it. All right.
I got the number 1 defense or number 2 defense in all of football behind me.
Yeah,
I got some running backs, a line. Yeah, I mean Flacco, like we can do this. We can do this now.
So it's very interesting, man. Like just how much of a difference, you know, a player makes, right?
Yeah. Now we've always said one player don't make a difference in the NFL, but one player can turn.
I say Joe Flacco, and I say for the Rams, it's Kyron Williams. You know what I'm saying? Like, is it Kyron or Kieran?
I think it's Kieran. I think it's Kieran. So as soon as you said it, I was like, okay, yeah, that's him. See, and I've seen that comparison too. I think I put it up on Twitter where the Rams haven't had a first-round pick in like 4 years or something like that. So people were like using it to equate it to us. Like there's still hope. You know, they haven't had a first-round pick. Look at them. I'm like, yeah, but they had everything already.
They had some dogs.
Yeah, they already had a Super Bowl team. Like that's why they don't have any first-round picks, because they went for it. And now they got a Sean McVay at head coach too. Like that. I mean, you've got to. When you have a young guy like that, like a McVay or a Mike McDaniels in Miami or Kyle Shanahan, if it's an offensive-minded guy, cool. If he knows his system and he believes in his system and gets his players to play for his system, that's different. Now, me personally, I'd rather have a defensive-minded head coach and you go find a offensive coordinator. But to the point that we made week before, you're only going to have the offensive coordinator for like a year and a half, and he's going to be out the door for a head coaching job. So you almost kind of have to look at it from the offensive side. And I think that's where the issue is going to be with us, because our talent's on the defensive side, like in terms of what we can retain. Like, and that's the mistake to me. What they should have did in hindsight was build the defense and keep the pieces we had on offense until we were in a position to get a quarterback. They pressed fast forward, and they did it and got rid of players to get the quarterback. And now you're in a point where you might lose pieces of your defense because of the results on the field from you losing everybody on offense to get that quarterback. So now the quarterback looks bad as a result because there's nobody to throw to or hand it off to. The offensive line looks bad because you're not, moving the ball or whatever. It all goes hand in hand. The defense is just tired at this point. Week 16, week 17.
Yeah. Defense is tired. That's what I saw this past game.
They were wore out.
Like, they're tired. And the Jaguars got something to play for.
Yeah, the Jaguars trying to win a division. So, I mean, it's a whole different mentality. We were going to do trial of Scott Fitterer today. Schuyler had to step out. He had a Sports Illustrated meeting he had to get to. We'll save the Scott Fitterer things. We'll have the offseason for that. Matter of fact, by the time we get to this point next week, Scott Fitterer might even be here. So we'll I don't know. I've said I think he's going to stay, to be honest, because he's still here.
I think he's good. I think everyone's jumping the gun, and
I think they want
trying to find the blame. And I think that's basically it, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a season like this, you want to figure out who can I blame for all this. And
who's
the answer is you won't know until you know. You know what I'm saying? We won't know until next year, 2 years. Like, oh, I guess that person that got cut or that person that got fired was the reason. Like, you won't know until you know. And I think too, like, everyone that thought that things were gonna change when Frank Wright got fired, no, that was just part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't a system or a decision made to say, like, well, if we get rid of him, then
it'll get better.
This is going to change everything. No, this is part of the process of implementing a new staff for next year.
I hope that they make a movie or something out of this season, like 10 years, 15 years down the road. And like we get to see behind the scenes what happened. And Kevin Costner's playing Frank Wright or something. And we can see this drama. Because I feel like there's so much left out that we just don't know. Because some of it don't make any sense. Like, why would you do this then? Why didn't you do that then when you did that? Like, there's parts that are holding back from the media where we don't know exactly what the plan is. And that's the frustration with the media that I talk to in North Carolina, whether it's Joe Person or Jim Zoki or whoever, where it's like, we've always known as a franchise where we were, like where we're going or where we're at. And we know where we're at, but we don't know where we're going, like how we're going to get out of it. And I don't think that the fan base is comfortable with that. They don't want to abandon the team, but the apathy level is the highest I've ever seen it in terms of I'm not going to waste my Sunday watching this because of what I'm seeing on the field. And that's just the production of the entire year here towards the end. I know some of that will go away, new season, off season, excitement comes back, it's 0-0, all that good stuff. But they got to nail this head coaching hire. And if Fitterer is going to be here, that means he's going to be a part of the process again to hire. And I wouldn't be stuck on offense, because like we all said, you got to fix things on the offense before you can do anything, regardless of who the coach is. I would focus on who are my best players on this roster. Derek Brown, Brian Burns, Frankie Louvu, maybe J.C. Horn. They're all defense. Lock up your defense so you have that and start putting some pieces together with what you have draft-wise for your offense. You already have your quarterback. You've got a couple years to figure this out while he's on a rookie deal. If it takes 3 years, like Schuyler said, to get this together, then drafting Bryce was pointless because at that point, he's going to be up for his extension. And at that point, you're either giving him a bunch of money or you're letting him go. And so what did you just do for 3 or 4 years? Like, you've got to get this right, this 12, 18-month window right now. Like, you have to get this right. If you don't get it right, I mean,
you need a culture guy for sure.
You need a culture guy.
You need a culture guy.
It don't even have to be Panthers culture. It just needs to be a culture that can be adapted within the Panthers. Yeah. Jim Harbaugh.
It just needs to be football winning culture.
Jim Harbaugh. Like, I did not think Michigan was going to lose that football game at any time, which was a great game, by the way. I don't know if you watched
that. That was a wonderful game.
Yeah, good football.
Both games were great.
Yeah, I fell asleep in the Washington game.
How about that? So University of Washington The last time they won a championship was against
91.
Michigan.
Yeah, 91.
91. Yeah. And what a way to send off, into the Big Ten next year.
The Pac-12,
Leaving
man.
the Pac-12.
For the Pac-12.
So it's going to be like, hey, Michigan and Big Ten, this is like, the future.
Oh my gosh.
We'll be doing this more. We'll be doing this more often.
Oh my gosh. We're going to have USC and UCLA and SEC. No.
If you think about it, bro, think about this. Michigan, UW, Oregon, this could be a new thing. It could be almost kind of like the SEC.
I think
in the sense of you have those big powerhouse, names and they're always in playoff contention.
UCLA and USC are going to the Big Ten too, right?
Yeah.
What in the world? It's like the Big Ten, it just literally just picked out states that weren't in, across the whole map, and we're like, oh, California, we're not in there. Let's just grab those. Oh, the Northwest, let's just grab Oregon and grab Washington and get that Nike money. Let's get all that over here. What else do we have?
We have Oregon, SC, UW, UCLA.
What, they got 18 teams?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 teams.
18 teams. And the SEC will be at 16 teams because they're bringing in Oklahoma and Texas. Wow.
So UW plays Michigan next year. We play Michigan next year. Or the Oregon Ducks play Michigan next
games. And for those that are wondering why the ACC doesn't make the same amount of money as the SEC or Big Ten, this little 2-minute conversation part of this podcast, that's why. they don't have that. They got Florida State and Clemson, and that's it. They don't have the same
that's all, folks.
Brand name. Yeah. So when people are like, oh, the ACC messed up, they didn't get the same amount of money. They weren't going to. They're not the same thing. They don't attract the same eyeballs. So that conversation is weird to me. And Florida State, I don't know what happened to y'all
next year.
Florida, it's going to be wild getting out of the Big Ten and the SEC with Texas going in there.
I have to figure out. I'm going to figure out how to get into this Big Ten conference media schedule here.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be off the chain. So the national championship set, Michigan, Washington. I've been on the record. I think they've been the two best teams all year. The only two undefeated teams that got in the playoff. It kind of fitting that at the end of the season we get there. Can Harbaugh finish the story? Can he? He's done everything he wanted to do at Michigan except win a national championship for the Wolverines. Can he finish that off? Or will this young coach from Washington come in here and win an actual championship? So that's next week.
Either way, it's going to be sweet for the Big Ten.
Oh yeah, they've already won
as a whole. It's great. They already won. Hey, come to the Big Ten if you want to be a champion.
That Suge Knight Death Roast. Hey, if you don't want them all dancing in your videos like that,
you don't want dancing in videos and doing all this other stuff. You want to make some money? Come to the Big Ten.
Man, so we'll find out from that at this point next week, because we're going to stop it right here. We'll find out at this point next week. The regular season will be over. We will have gone through Black Monday. So we'll find out how many teams have openings. We'll find out how many GM openings there are. We'll find out if we have one here. We'll know who the national champion is by the time we come back next week, because they'll play on Monday night. We'll be on Tuesday. So we got a lot of different things for you for next week. The regular season's over, but we ain't going anywhere. Of course, we're kind of used to it at this point. We'll keep you around during the playoffs and give you our opinions on the playoff matchups or whatnot. And of course, there's going to be Panther front office things going on once we get to Monday of next week that we'll have to keep you abreast on. There's the draft, there's the offseason, the coaching search, all this stuff that hopefully they'll have kind of put together before we get to the Super Bowl in February. So still got a little ways to go here. Got one game left to go in the regular season. Just buckle up, and hopefully the Panthers can put on a good performance for those that do appear at Bank of America Stadium for the last game of the year against a division rival in Tampa who is actually playing for the NFC South. So we kind of got a little bit to play for too. We can ruin Tampa's whole thing by winning that football game, because I don't think it's guaranteed they get in as a wild card if whoever loses on Sunday. So we'll get to all that and more next week. Again, Schuyler Callihan had to bounce a little bit early, had a SI meeting he needed to get to. But for Jonathan Stewart and for myself, Desmond Johnson, you've been watching and listening to the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast on Bleav Podcast Networks, brought to you by Bet Online, where the game starts. Keep pounding.